We met over the internet. I'm not going to tell you what website it was, but suffice to say it was a very popular one. It started innocently enough. We would chat about mutual interests, TV shows, books, etc. But after a couple of weeks, our talks became more erotic. I promise I'll spare you the details. The point is, I had never been involved in an internet... The pencil game, also called Charlie Charlie, is a traditional ritual where players, usually children, are said to contact the spirits of a child named Charlie. To play the pencil game, you will need 6 pencils and a partner. Facing each other, each person must hold 3 pencils and arrange them as 3 sides of a box, with the open end facing the other person. It is best to use unsharpened pencils, or to hold the tips so that the eraser ends are pointed towards your partner. The ends of your pencils will need to touch your partners to form a complete rectangle.
There was no screaming. And no crying. I was refreshed when I woke up in the morning after having gotten my first good night's sleep in 3 days. Although when I saw my son, he seemed very fatigued. He didn't even put up his usual fuss when we got him ready for preschool. So when my wife took him to daycare, I decided to review the camera's tape in order to find out
different Sims
if he had,
consisting of 5 adults and 3 kids. What seemed to be a bit strange was the fact that the family had 100,000 simoleons, where every other family only had 20,000. I also did not remember a Johnson family being in the original game, unless it was something unique to Double Deluxe. Regardless, I picked this family and moved into 2 Sim Lane, which set me back about 50,000 simoleons. I began to furnish the house, spending a lot on various items, ultimately using a 300 simoleon cot
It
for a
can be
bed.
anyone, sir. We just need a name.
Okay. I made up a name. Harold Withers.
Sir, as your operator, I must point out that fictitious names or the names of people that you don't know cannot be used.
Used for what? I asked. How had she known that I'd made up that name? The whole thing felt like it was some sort of prank, but hardly anyone knew my name. I had to throw it away as it looked too bad to repair. Sleep was hard to come by that night. The next day, I got up early, emptied the garbage, and threw it in the dumpster in the parking lot before leaving for work. Problem solved. Or so I thought. Later that morning, I got a call from my fiancée asking me why I thought it would be funny to joke about throwing one of her stuffed toys away. I explained that I put it in the dumpster that morning, and she asked why it was still on the shelf. Both doors were still locked, and no windows or anything were broken. I left work early. As soon as I got home, I explained to my fiancée what had happened and told her that I was getting rid of the toy. I grabbed it and left. I drove out to a Safeway that is a few blocks away. I tossed the thing in the dumpster there and took off for home. Thankfully, that time, it didn't come back. For 4 days. The strangest thing is that it was clean.
With the dock on my walk home.
It looked like it had never left.
I really think you're losing it, Mark. Those pills are driving you crazy. No, I have it all here! I held up the recorder. Guess I'd have to hear it to believe this story. I pressed play on the recorder, and the recording started. Test, said one of the officers that had briefed me. Good, it works. See, I'm not making this up! We turned our attention back to the recorder. Ugh, what the fuck? And then static. Then a low tone rose from the tiny speaker. The frequency steadily rose higher and higher. I jammed the stop button, but the tone continued to grow higher and louder until I dropped it to fall onto my knees and covered my ears. And then the recorder suddenly stopped. I looked up and Audrey was staring at me. What are you doing? You didn't hear that? He must have been able to mask his voice or some shit. I can't do this. You're going to take those pills until they fucking kill you because some figment of your imagination threatened to kill me. I need some time. I can't deal with it anymore. I'm leaving. Call me when you're back to normal. Really? 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 Don't do this to me! I can't stay. I told you. Off those pills or I leave. Fine. Fine. Leave me. If I stop the pills, he will fucking kill you. Go check yourself in the mental health clinic. You need help. Yo, go fuck yourself! God! Go, get the fuck out! She packed her bags right then
Is
and there.
murdered in the U.S. each year.
We didn't say a word.
Doesn't that number sound high? It's true, though. Don't believe me? Look it up. 1 in every 15,000 people. Calculate that stat over a 75-year lifespan, and that means that there is a 1 in 200 chance that someone will try and kill you. It's a terrifying thought, really. In comparison, your chances of getting hit by a car are only 1 in 600, which means you're 3 times more likely to get gutted by a knife-wielding maniac or shot by a jaded ex-lover than you are to get run over by a minivan that's driver was texting while speeding through an intersection. Now picture this. You made it back inside your apartment with the kid. It was late. So you were able to smuggle him up into your unit under the cover of darkness. To your knowledge, no one had seen you. You were safe for the moment, but you were sick to your stomach about what had just transpired. You remember the warm, fuzzy feeling you got after reading the advice of your guardian angel, and you were pretty sure the mixture of emotions that were now brewing inside you were the exact opposite. You wonder what kind of guy
Yar, me. It was insane. Lovers beware, the pirate code be.
Peter, are you in your office?
Come in, Fred.
Hey. Store still running? I thought we were shut down since we can't use the animatronics.
Nah. The bite shouldn't be a reason that we shut down. We still have the old Springlock suits from Fredbear's. I've had the employees and myself walking around in those instead.
You can't do that. Those things are dangerous. They're the whole reason that we went full animatronic. The locks on all the animatronic parts on the inside are faulty. If you so much as breathe wrong, brush one of those things, it'll crush you to death. You know that.
Everyone gets training on them. Don't worry.
Peter, the police are still going through everything with me, but this isn't looking good. And you're not helping me at all with this. It's looking... What are you doing?
Dismantling them.
Why? That was Victor's job. You can't mess with these things. They're evidence now.
Victor hasn't showed up in days, remember? He took your cash, and he ran. Remember?
Yeah. How could I forget? Guy screwed us.
You.
Excuse me?
He screwed you. I don't own this company.
You don't. I'm sorry. How many times have I stuck my neck out for you, you ungrateful asshole? You can't abandon me when the shit hits the fan.
Fred, why do you think I'm doing all this? Victor's not here to hide your tracks. I'm doing
I
it.
heard your dad talking about a letter on Tuesday, I said. Oh. As we waited for her to continue, the bell rang for lunch. Everyone filed out of the room, but the 3 of us stayed, still sitting in our desks. Kimber, I finally said. She sighed sadly and looked over at Kyle. Yes. What did it say? He asked nervously. I don't know. I haven't seen it. I asked my dad for it when we got home, and he said I'd misheard him and there was no letter. He said not to mention it to anyone or else I'd just upset people. Well, then we both misheard him, I said, which seems unlikely. I've known my dad all my life, and I know when he's lying. People started to filter in for the next period, sliding sympathetic glances at Kimber. Since it was our lunch period, we gathered up our things and walked out to my car, as we always did. I sat in the back seat, letting Kyle and Kimber take the front. Kimber took a deep breath and continued. I know my dad is lying, and I know he has the letter. Are you sure? Kyle asked. I could tell he was still terrified that some of the blame rested on him. Yeah. And I know it contains the name Prescott. I think I even know where it is. Prescott. Yet somehow I wasn't that surprised. He was the axis around which everything that was bad orbited. How do you know it says Prescott? Kyle asked. I heard my dad reading it once. I think he reads it a lot, actually. He was sort of sobbing and whispering the words and throwing things in his office. My dad, he hasn't been well. Do you think she was having an affair with Jimmy Prescott? I shook my head. I'm guessing you need to think bigger than that, Kyle. I agree, Kimber said to her hands in her lap. With everything we know about the Prescotts, I'm fairly sure this isn't about an affair. It's all connected somehow, don't you think? My dad was the love of my mom's life, but she only left a letter for me. I think that somehow I'm the one she wronged, not him. You know? I think she did something to me, or maybe she did it because of me. Kimber's voice broke over that last sentence, and Kyle pulled her over, kissed the top of her head, and whispered words in her ear that I couldn't hear.